Welcome to Bruce Hurwitz Presents Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Bruce Hurwitz of Hurwitz Strategic Staffing. You can find me on the web at hsstaffing.com. I hope you will consider us for all your staffing, career counseling, and speech writing needs. I'm delighted to be joined today by David Dunworth. Our topic is how to obtain iconic status in your professional practice. Meet the Experts is sponsored by P&K CPAs. P&K is a full-service accounting firm. They provide accounting and consulting services to businesses ranging from startups to small and mid-cap companies to nonprofits, as well as high-net-worth individuals. Contact them today for a free consultation at pk-cpas.com or call them at 973-882-8810. They will be happy to be of service. David, welcome to the show.
Bruce, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it is my pleasure. Please take a moment or two and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure. Well, my name is David James Dunworth, and I am the Chief Experiences Officer of Marketing Partners and its family of brands. We have a publishing internal group, we have an academy, we have about 40 different brands that are under the Marketing Partners umbrella. But Marketing Partners is a marketing advisory firm, and I'm an international best-selling author. I've written 6 books and hundreds of articles for both my clients and myself. And I also speak from stage from time to time. So that's me in a nutshell.
And let me just be honest and share with our viewers what happened, because you've got a grin on your face, I've got one on mine. Technology is great, but sometimes things go a little bit off. And we did about 20 minutes of this interview, and then I realized that it wasn't being recorded. So that's the reason for the little chuckle and smiles on both of our faces. Now, you were kind enough to share a few slides.
Sure.
So let's begin with, please explain what we're looking at now.
Okay. This is something that I create.
I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I did 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Explain to us at the very beginning, what do you mean by iconic?
Iconic status is the person who leads the field, the person who has made it, done it, is there, the top of the heap. Everybody wants to be the best that they can be in business. But there's always one who leads the field, and everybody is somewhat far, behind at a certain level. So to give you an example, Tony Robbins is an icon. He's the iconic status in the public speaking world. Everybody knows that, and everybody wants to be Tony, but nobody can catch him at this particular point. That's what iconic status is. But on a local level, you might see, I work with a lot of clinicians, dentists, orthodontists, those types of things. And in every marketplace, there is one, usually, that leads everybody else. He has achieved iconic status. But everybody can segregate themselves from their competitors by an active strategy and brand growth. And that's what we do, is take them from where they're at to where they want to be.
And this reminds me of the old commercial where, for the car rental companies, where you had Hertz, who was #1, and Avis, who was #2, and they turned that into their tagline. We're #2, we try harder. So you can be an icon and not be #1.
Correct. That is correct. There will always be somebody chasing you. What you don't want is your clients having to chase your clients. You want your clients to chase you. And becoming an icon like Avis, who's number 2, in its own right has created its own unique brand message, its own brand strategy. It is, in their segment of the business, number 1, even though they're number 2 in the car rental. For those who seek the hardest working people, the best product that work for the client, the customer, more so than anybody else, you automatically think of Avis.
I'm not positive, but I think Enterprise has surpassed them both. But the point is to still well taken. So let's go back to this chart.
Sure.
And explain what it is.
Okay. This is part of a course that I teach. It's what I call the growth matrix that I personally came up with when I struggled in my own career. I was very successful. Then I wasn't so successful. Then I was very successful. And then I was living in my car at the turn of the millennium. I was living in a Thunderbird in Detroit in January, February, and March of the brand new century. And that has a long story, but I've determined that, it's been determined that I am manic depressive. I'm on medication. I lived that way for the rest of my life. But this is the matrix that got me out of the pit and onto the road to iconic status. And when you look at these 5 things, they're the 5 steps that just about everybody follows and goes through. They look at the challenge and pain of the client or themselves. They, understand the emotions. And then they figure out, well, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to go with? And then what's it going to take? Well, I took a different approach, and I believe it's a better approach.
And here's the second slide so you can explain it.
Right. This is the same matrix, except I've numbered the steps. And as you can see, number 1 is, like Dr. Stephen Covey, who coined the phrase, begin with the end in mind. That's where we begin our coaching program with the doctor, the dentist, and clinicians that we work with. We determine in very, very specific terms, what is the ideal result that you're after? Where do you want to be, and when do you want to be it? If you're, as an example, if you're earning $100,000 a year and you want to earn $1 million a year, when? What's the target date of that? We get very specific so that we can set up measurements and benchmarks along the way. So we then begin to determine if that's the transformation that you want to achieve, we're going to need to do some work. We're going to need to look at all of the challenges that you have as an individual and that your business has, and what's missing. Do you have self-limiting beliefs? Does your team have behaviors that need challenging and changing? We dive deep into the pain points and challenges that my client has. And once we've determined what those are, we then go through it and dissect them even further by understanding what feelings they have about all of the different aspects that they have. They may only have 4 severe problems that they need addressing, but they have different feelings. Not everybody feels the same way about, everything that goes on in their life. So we get very detailed into that. We look at self-destructive behaviors. Do they come from a place of pity or anger? Do they have self-esteem issues? When I was a child, I was even diagnosed with a persecution complex because I thought the world was against me. So, we get in deep with emotions. And then after we've cleared the path, we then say, okay, the outcomes that are going to get us to the transformation, knowing what problems that we have and the feelings that we have to face, how are we going to do it? What's the solution to this? And then once we determine that, it's, okay, if this is how it's going to be, who's going to do the work? Are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to hire some people to do it with you? Or are you going to hire somebody and say, do it for me? You want done for you services. And a lot of clinicians are busy people that don't have the head for marketing and promotions and advertising, nor do they have the time or desire to. You know, they go through, for instance, dental school or medical school. They didn't even get as much time as grammar school recess in terms of, you know, how to market and how to advertise their business. They're given their shingle, say, go hang it up and good luck. So we have to determine exactly what it's going to take to achieve the outcomes, who's going to do it, and what tools, number 5, are going to be necessary in order for this to happen. We're also going to create the benchmarks, milestones, what have you, to be able to analyze it on regular basis. Every month we'll check and see, okay, we broke down our goal into 12 pieces. Now, where are you this month? And why aren't you where you're at? Or, oh, great, you overachieved. So maybe we can dial back some of the marketing. You know, so we're actively working on this living, breathing matrix document so that we end up at the result that we've agreed to where we're going to be.
Now, I would just think that it's a statement of the obvious that you have to begin by knowing where you want to get to, what your goal is. It's fun, and I used to do it all the time, to just get in the car and choose a direction, because my goal was just to get in the car, drive, relax, see nature, whatever. I'd look at the gas gauge, and it was a little bit more than half a tank. I'd turn around and go back. But you can't do in business. You can't just say, oh, let's see what's going to happen. You have to have your end goal. Now, if I understand your process correctly, once you've established what you want to do, then you have to consider first what may be holding you back, and first and foremost, issues that are personal to you.
Correct.
Overcome those.
Mm-hmm.
Once those have been overcome, then you look to what you need to accomplish the goal, and you come up with a plan, a process, different steps. You want to grow your business, you're going to do some networking, you'll get a couple of clients that way, you'll have some money, you'll then start advertising on social media or maybe old school. This seems not counterintuitive, but the only logical way to accomplish anything.
That's exactly right. It's pure logic. Unfortunately, many entrepreneurs, solopreneurs especially, operate from a position of emotion rather than logic. And so here's a quick example of what I mean. Entrepreneurs are all over the place. They're online, they're offline, they're some in between. But when they want to grow their business, the first thing they usually think of is what everybody else is doing. Oh, everybody's running Facebook ads. I should run a Facebook ad. That'll grow my business. And so they spend a lot of money and they find out that it doesn't work. Oh, I've tried Facebook advertising. It doesn't work. Well, it obviously works for a great many people because there's a whole bunch of internet marketers that utilize it and utilize it well. And so they jump in before they actually use a logical sequence of events. And so in advertising online and trying to do marketing, whether it's online or offline, there's a 3-step process. There is the market, which we call the ideal client. That's your market. Once you've identified who your ideal client is and where they hang out, where they get their information, you then come up with your message that's going to be specific to them, that's going to be specific to their pain points, their emotions, and how you have the solution. And then once you've got those 2 factors, then you decide on which media you're going to use. Now, you may end up on Facebook ads. That's fine. But you don't start there, you end there. There's 1,245 different types of media. If you're a dentist, are you on social media? Some of them are. They probably have their front desk handling it. Are they going to actively learn what it's going to take from there? Probably not. They're reading business journals. They're hanging out in different places. They're probably on LinkedIn. They're probably on Alignable. Those two types of professional networks, they go to professional networking events. And so rather than heading off into media that you're hoping things work for you, we go through the exercise of learning where they're at, how they achieve their information, where they're doing their research, and then go at them with the right message in the right media. We call that the golden triangle. Marketing, the market, the message, and the media all have to match. They're all equally important. It's sort of like a three-legged stool. If one of the legs of the stool is longer or shorter than the other two, they're going to fall over. It's going to be ineffective. That's what most entrepreneurs and solopreneurs especially don't take into consideration. They follow the crowd. If you're following the crowd, I strongly suggest that you turn around and go in the opposite direction, because chances are you're gonna get to where you want to be a little faster.
And that's very true. I can think of a number of people who said, if everybody is doing this and I want to stand out from the crowd, I should do the exact opposite, which makes a lot of sense. Now, in column 5, I want to talk about benchmarks.
Okay.
I used to write here about analyzing the results, keeping things on track.
Right.
I am a big believer in the importance of quick and easy successes, because that builds up confidence. I can give an example of career counseling, someone who's looking for a job. First, go to a networking event and secure an informational meeting. You've now had a success. You got somebody to agree to give you 15 minutes of their time. Then the next thing is to get a real interview. And then obviously the last stage is to get a job offer. But if you're not getting any positive results, you're going to become depressed. You're not going to be willing to invest the time, let alone the money. And you may go back to that first column, not your first step, but your first column of all of the internal negativity that you have. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big believer in benchmarks. You set goals. Your goal is to grow your business, but that's the last goal. The first goal is to get 5 meetings with prospects. The next goal is to get references from clients who are willing to allow you to use their name on your website or whatever. Talk about the importance of benchmarks.
Well, benchmarks, it's sort of like the analogy that you used in getting in the car and driving. And rather than just pointing your car west and saying, oh, let's see where we're going to go, you have no particular destination. Any road will get you there. Any road will get you to nowhere. So if you know that on every mile you're going to have to check a map, that's your benchmark. You need to check, okay, where am I at now? Okay, where am I at now? That's the same thing. Your benchmarks are your ultimate goal broken down and work backwards. If it's you want to have $1 million in a year, okay, that's $100,000 a month in easy terms. But nothing is easy, so you're going to be short on your first month or 2 or 3. So why not design that benchmark there that way? If you say, okay, I'm only going to get to 25,000 my first month, 50 the next, I'll be able to overachieve eventually and still come up at that $1 million mark. But you already know exactly where you need to be on exactly that date, and that's we're going to analyze. Okay, did you make it? Why didn't you make it? These are the things that we need to tweak or add or subtract or may not be fully utilized in order to keep us on track and keep us moving forward. There's an old saying that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. All right, that's what I was trying to think of a minute ago. And so the importance of those milestones, those benchmarks, is to a reality check, to keep you accountable, to keep you on the course so that you're not deviating yourself from that. If you've got a list of tasks that must be performed, like you need to be posted a blog article every week, you need to be on LinkedIn, making new connections, 3 a week, or whatever goals, whatever steps that we have in order to meet those milestones must be accomplished. And so that's why we review on a regular basis where you're at and why you're either there or not there. And if you overachieved and you didn't realize it, what went wrong? Why are you not aggressive enough? Is there some belief or hidden emotion that we haven't really uncovered yet? So it's always coaching and digging and trying to be the best person that we can be. And that's the importance of goals, is to make sure that you get where you want to be at the time you want to be there.
To continue the driving analogy, I have the worst sense of direction of anyone on the planet, and whenever anybody starts arguing with me, I'll just give you the punchline. I once was taken to a meeting after being lost for an hour and a half by a blind man and his dog. So when I say I have the worst sense of direction, I mean it. And I once had to head, I don't remember, for sake of argument, I was supposed to go west and I was driving east. And the person in the car with me said, we're supposed to be going in the opposite direction. And I said, well, it really doesn't matter. If we keep on going east, eventually we'll get to where we want to go. There'll be a little bit of water in the way, but we'll get there.
That is true.
I found a place to safely turn around, and I turned around. Now,
Are you sure you're not my wife? Because you sound an awful lot like my wife.
No.
She has a pretty bad sense of direction herself.
I'm not going there.
No, don't go there. I'm sure I'm going to pay for going there myself. So
oh, yeah. Yeah. And it was nice knowing you. There are business owners, there are entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, who actually think that my little silly comment about if you go far enough east, you'll wind up going west, is valid for business. If you try something and eventually you'll get something, it's the law of statistics. Now, it is true. If you're applying for jobs and you have 1,000 interviews, eventually somebody's going to hire you. But that's not the way to do it.
Absolutely not. Right.
So how do you get people, how do you get your clients to be realistic? Because as you said, the plan is a living document. It's going to change. And that means accepting reality.
Right. And part of the process that I use when I take on new clients is we go through a very, very long rapport building stage. We get to know each other. We get relationships built, and we then continually nurture and uncover what we can from each other, so that when we do finally agree on a plan, you agree to everything that we've agreed to, I agree to everything we have agreed to, and we both sign a document that says we both agree to what we agree to, and we're going to hold each other accountable. So if I don't give you the tools that you need, well, shame on me. It's my fault that you didn't meet your metric, your benchmark. And the same thing, if you didn't do your work, you didn't do your stuff, you're held accountable. And this is why you didn't meet your metric. That's a real value of the metrics as well, as it keeps everybody accountable and on the path so that the productivity remains as high as it needs to be. And sometimes reticence does come into play. But we need to work through that. We need to work beyond that for the sake of the plan, for the sake of the goal and transformation that our client is looking for. And, you know, emotions are involved sometimes, but when you realistically look at from a logical standpoint, if something's not working, it needs to either be fixed or swapped out. And, you know, if we agree to that, then that's, if we agreed to that in the beginning, it shouldn't be a question down the road.
David, I want to thank you profusely, both for all the information and for your patience.
Oh, that's
because of our little technical hitch at the beginning. I thank you. I want to put up your contact information.
great.
And I truly appreciate your taking the time.
Oh, I appreciate it too. You know, we talked about, you know, not having it get recorded. I teach a class on the matrix that I shared in this, and I once taught an entire session and never hit the record button, and it was a live class. So we didn't do it over. We just kind of,
you know, I tell people when something goes wrong, just laugh it off. No one died. It's not the end of the world.
Keep moving forward. A couple of things I wanted to point your attention to is there, you know, we utilize a marketing quiz to see where do you feel you are at marketing. And so you can, your visitors can look at either one of these two, marketingmastermindquiz.com or marketingyourinfluence.com, and take our little quiz. It'll give you some results. It'll give you some free handouts and things like that. But you can reach me at marketingpartnersllc.com. My website, my email is david@marketingpartnersllc.com, and my phone number, 727-614-8700.
David,
feel free to call.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you for watching. Keep focused on success.